day before my direct access starts. I'm feeling really nervous, but I'm also feeling really excited. It's definitely going to be an experience, and I'm doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday as my direct access. So I'm really nervous, really excited. So me and Dan have decided that what we're going to do is we're going to go and do some bits that I know I struggle with.
The purpose of this video, shall I say, I'm not going to be fully geared up because it is so hot where I am. For this first part we're just doing like the manual handling, so I know very much when I'm on the test I will be geared, but for this moment in time we're not going to. We're just going to kind of do it as it is. Dan is pretending he is a instructor examiner person today, so for this first bit we're just going to be moving the bike backwards and forwards. I'm not going to be sitting on it or riding it, which is why I'm not going to obviously have my helmet on, and I am going to take my jacket off because it's so warm. But here is me doing some manual handling.
So we have my phone camera and we have our normal camera over there that we are going to use just so that we can pick up both voices and both amounts of sound. So I have my mod 1 test coming up really soon, and I wanted to do a few practice bits to make sure that I feel comfortable, I feel confident. Part of my CBT, when we did like the mod 1 aspect, there was massive issues with the slalom. I really struggled with it, and actually it sounds really silly to say, but it really distressed me to a whole point that I now panic every time I see the cones and I get myself into such a tiz. So my direct access is obviously coming up, and we're just going to do a few bits here and there to kind of help ease the nerves and just do what we can while we're out on the road. So we're going to do the first part of what a mod 1 would be, which is the manual handling side of the bike. So Dan is going to be my makeshift examiner for today. I am very aware that on the actual mod 1 I would be fully geared, I'd have my jacket, I'd have my helmet. It's so hot where we are, and because I'm not actually riding the bike and we're in an area that we live and know and there's a car park, I'm not in any risk, I'm not in any danger. So although we'll be doing things under exam conditions, I'm not going to be geared up for this particular task, but I am fully aware that that would need to happen on the exam. So we've basically done the start bit of the examiner has told me to go into the car park and park in bay 1, which is here. Now the manual handling is you have to move the bike from bay 1 to bay 3. So to give some context in the camera, bay 2 is here, this is the middle of bay 2, bay 3 is here. So I've got to get my bike from there to here.
Yeah, so as you said, the examiner would have told you to go into the test site, park in bay 1, and it will say treat it like treat this test like road conditions. So what he means by that, which he won't say, is he expects you to be doing all your lifesavers, looking for cars. Yeah, basically just making sure you're aware of your surroundings, as well as showing your control of the bike, be it manual handling, making sure that you're stable with it, or some of the other maneuvers that you'll be doing, which will be control of the bike and clutch control slow maneuvers. So yeah, he'll say when you're ready, I'd like you to get on with moving your bike from the bay 1 into the next bay. Okay, good. So he should be happy with that. There is a tip I can give you, which I've just remembered that I learned in my mod 1, which was try and keep the bike as close to the side of you as possible, which will give you ultimately more control because you've got the bike almost leant against your hip, which will stop it from having that sort of wobbly movement. But yeah, if he's happy with that, he will then move on to the next manoeuvre, which I believe is the slow ride.
Yeah, and the situation that we're in, or the car park location we're in, the slow ride isn't quite practical here. So we're going to kind of skip that, but come back to it at some point. So if they're happy with the slow ride, what would be the next part of the mod 1?
The next one would be your favourite, which would be the slalom, and then after the slalom into the figure of 8.
Okay. Could we do the figure of 8 here?
We could do the slow ride here. The only problem is we'll need to be down the middle of the car park. Bearing in mind this is a public car park, cars can turn up. So, I mean, if you were happy to continue and just move the bike out of the way if the car come, I think...
What an idiot.
Yes, what an idiot. I believe we could probably do most of the manoeuvres here. Just being extra vigilant, because obviously with the test site, they have a fenced off environment. We have a public car park.
Yeah, no, definitely. We are, and we have to just remember that we are in a public car park. So we will have to make obviously allowances as if when cars come in. So we will kind of pause here and then we'll cut to the slow ride. So due to the vibrations and the distortion coming from the motorbike, we've had to cut the original audio that was there. So I'm going to do just a quick voiceover and kind of go through what was happening. So at this point, we've just done the manual handling, and Dan had said that you need to get into a certain position using the space allocated to you before you start the slow ride. So here Dan is just talking me through exactly what it is I have to do. He was explaining that the examiner will be either behind, to the side, slightly in front, and then you are doing the slow controlled ride. The main thing the examiner is going to be watching or looking for is to make sure that you can control the bike at a slow speed. So the tip I was given was to not go above 5 miles per hour and to just keep it as steady as physically possible. I then just checked with Dan to make sure that the lifesaver maneuvers are something that would need to be done at this point, and I was basically talking it through in my head what that meant. So I would make sure that my foot was on the back brake. I then look over both shoulders, pull in the clutch, go into first gear, then transfer back over to the back brake, keeping my clutch in, checking over, and then when I am ready, I am going to move off. This was an experience and a half, and I really, really struggled. I panicked, and then as you can see, I've had my first wobble, both feet on the ground, which in an exam would obviously be a fail. So we then back it up and we try and go again. So I'm making sure that I'm where I need to be. I'm debating whether or not to do my lifesaver checks again, but then I'm thinking to myself that if this was in an exam, I would have to do that. So I get back into that mindset. Dan's also given me a bit of encouragement on the best way to do it, and then off we go. And I do a little bit better this time. I was more panicking about Dan being next to me because I misheard him to begin with, and I didn't think you could go in front of the examiner. So I had a little meltdown, tried to figure it out, and then we decided to go back again for round 3. So as I'm going backwards, I'm saying to Dan, I don't understand. And he's like, no, it's fine. And when we get to the starting point, Dan says to me, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do it slightly different. I am going to tell you just to ride towards the camera that is waiting at the other end, doing it as a slow, controlled maneuver. And he was basically just going to either stand there or follow really slowly behind. So at this point, I'm making sure that I'm going to do my lifesaver checks again, and I keep talking myself through it to make sure I'm really comfortable. So I'm saying that my foot's on the back brake, I'm looking, I'm clutching, I'm changing, and then I'm looking again before I kind of move off. I think the more I say it in the head, the more comfortable I feel that it's going to work. So at this point, Dan's just basically going to follow nice and slowly behind, and we're just going on a really nice controlled ride. My control here is so much better than the other 2 attempts that I have done, so therefore feeling a lot more confident. Right in front of the camera, I'm then going to just press over again. I'm going to put my bike into neutral, and I'm going to go back on the back brake, and I'm now going to wait for my next instruction.
Okay. Perfect. You will notice a difference when you're doing it on your Mod 1 being on a bigger bike. At the moment we're not 100% on what bike you're going to be riding, are we? We think it might be a SV650.
I think it's SV6, yeah.
But obviously a 125, because of the way it's gearing and the small engine, it is a lot more difficult to do this sort of manoeuvre on a 125 opposed to doing it on a big engine bike, because you can almost just hold it in biting point, and just a little bit of revs just to stop it from stalling. But yeah, so that wasn't too bad. I think we should set up the cones for the slalom.
My favourite thing to do. Okay, so I'm gonna pause recording and then we're gonna cut to hopefully doing the slalom, providing nobody comes in.
Okay, so I've set up the cones for Sam, and she is going to get herself ready and then attempt the slalom part of the exam test.
Okay, so obviously if I was in an exam condition right now, I'd have my foot on the back brake, lifesaver check, foot off the back brake, hand on the front brake, clutch in into neutral, back onto the back brake, holding the clutch in the whole time, lifesaver check, and now I would be ready to move off. Wish me luck, people. I'm going to say that was pretty successful.
Perfect.
I know Dan's probably going to have something to say about the whole situation, but I just did the slalom and I didn't cry, I didn't knock over a cone, and I'm now going to ride up. I'm going to pretend I've done it a couple of times just so I can hear his feedback, and then I'll go back down again. So I've put my bike into neutral, I'm going to come off the clutch onto the back brake, and I'm just saying to the camera that I would have pretended I'd done that a couple of times, come back up to hear kind of what you would say. Obviously we know the slalom is a massive issue for me. How was it? Did I rush it? Do I need to do anything different?
I think that's fine. Obviously we don't have the room to do the slalom into the figure of 8, so we're going to have to do them separate. But on your actual exam you go for the slalom.
And then you go straight into the figure of 8.
The figure of 8 cones are at the end of the slalom.
Yeah, obviously we just don't have the room in the public car park for that. I think so.
And then when you finish that, I'll set it up to the figure of 8.
Okay, so I'm just going to get myself back into the, starting. Oh, I dropped my bike. I now think I figured out what I've broken on it. Whoops. Okay, so I'm at the start line of the slalom. I'm in neutral. My foot is on the back brake, so I'm going to look to do my lifesaver. I'm going to swap over, hand on the front brake, clutch in, down into first gear. Back across, foot on the back brake, hand off the front brake, holding in the clutch the whole time. Lifesaver, and I'm now happy that I'm going to move off. I hate these things. I don't know why they give me such bad anxiety, but they really, really do. What I'm going to do is I'm not going to stop and do all my checks again. I'm just going to come round and basically go straight into it, because I think that's obviously a really good idea as well. And then I can kind of go a different direction on it as well. I'm getting the nod of approval. You can't see this because he's decided to sit his ass down rather than be anywhere near the camera, but that was definitely a seal of approval. Okay, I'm just going to go one last time. I'm going to say this is my last one, and then obviously I would be doing this, and then I'm going to come up to my instructor. I'm going to park up kind of with him, not that the camera can see him anymore because the instructor's too busy checking his phone rather than being cameraman.
I will have you know I'm checking the measurements for the figure of 8.
Cut to figure of 8. Car out the way for us so we could use the car parking space. So what we've done is we have figured out the gap between the cones for the figure of 8, and then what we're going to do now is just go through. I'm pretty sure in an exam, am I right in saying you'd have to do 3 rounds of figure of 8? If you have to ask you for another one, is that a fail? If you've done 3 figures of 8 and he doesn't like what he's seen and he says okay, I'd like you to do more, would that potentially be a fail for not showing it?
It'd be a minor. The only reason you would fail is if you have to put them out to study yourself. So the idea is to show control of the
Obviously we now have the part, you make sure that I don't know if anything can pick up anything you've just said. You know what it is. Okay, so come down, can't even ride. You're having a right old now. You're going to ride a bike. This is the part of the big effect. So when you do this, you would be coming straight from the slalom into it, wouldn't you? So would you be stopping? Is the first cone of the figure of 8? Yeah. Yeah. Now obviously, because of that situation, I'm not going to do my right side test. Would you have to do that going from the slalom to the figure of 8? Okay, no. So yeah, I was right. I'm not going to do them now. I'm going to be doing them in 8 10, so I am now. Ah, she would have failed. She put her foot down. Just on the slalom. So come back. Here. About here. Again.
You've got the right idea though, you're looking at where you need to go and you're taking a nice wide arc.
And I'm saying to myself, there's no space restriction on the figure of 8, is there? Like if you've got the room, use the room. And that's very much what I'm trying to do. Like I don't want to get too tight near the cones, I don't want to get too close because you don't have to do that. That's annoying though, because I did the first one so well. Okay, grab the cones then. We won't be able to do it now anyway, so. And I won't feel comfortable doing it in car that day. Sorry. Okay, so we now have to stop figure of 8, which is fine. We've done the slalom, we did the slow manoeuvre.
We've done the manual handling.
And I did one full figure of 8.
So the
So I know I can do it. It's just
only
getting it
manoeuvre
done.
you haven't done, or manoeuvres, sorry, is the controlled stop,
Yeah.
which is basically just at a comfortable speed. So you're coming through the speed trap, slowing down gently and parking your front wheel in between 4 cones.
Yeah.
Your second one is your emergency stop, which will be going through the speed trap again, and you don't start braking until your examiner puts his hand up.
Yeah.
And then obviously you'll slow down as fast as possible, clutch in, don't go down the gears. So you should be in 2nd gear, emergency stop, and then as soon as you're down, lifesaver into neutral, and wait for him to tell you the next instruction.
Okay.
After that is just a swerve test, and then that'll be the end of your mod 1.
Okay. So work on figure of 8. Although I did one full circle, there was obviously
Yeah, I
a
mean,
moment where I
and
struggled.
also what you need to bear in mind is the test site is going to be a lot wider, so you'll have even more room than what you're using.
Yeah.
What you're using is probably the ideal figure of 8s, because you had nice wide arcs.
Yeah.
But if you were on a test site, you would have
More
the
room.
ability to go wider still. Yeah,
So overall, not bad.
not bad.
I'll take that.